Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a 2.6 replacement. I do have another one of these that I posted, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years ago or something, and I did it a different way. I pulled the head on that one, and this one right here I'm going to pull out all together with the iTech on it and everything. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, but I want to do it that way. Just anyway, as far as prep, you know, you're going to be greasy. You know, at the end of this job, you're going to look like this anyway. So don't wear anything nice. You know, these clothes are actually clean, just came out of the washer. But I have a long sleeve shirt, long pants. You're going to be crawling around on the ground, all over the engine compartment of this thing. You know, dirt, oil, grease. I use these nitrile rubber gloves, doctor style. Just pull them all the way up over my sleeves as far as I can get them. It's going to help keep me clean. I found that if you just wear these, they end up getting torn really easily. I've got these like rubber coated knit gloves that I put on over that, more than anything just to kind of create a surface that's easy to wipe off so far as grease or oil, and good feel. And my skin is protected by the nitrile underneath. The whole objective here is to stay clean, I guess is my point. I don't really enjoy being filthy. Okay, I've got basic tools laid out. You know, everything on this truck is going to be 8, 10, 12, 14, 17, 19, 22 millimeter. So, you know, just a basic set of metric tools, a hammer, pry bar. We've got a replacement motor here and a cherry picker, and that's really going to be about it. Okay, so the first thing I always want to do is get the fluids drained out of this thing. So I'm going to start with the oil. This is typically a 17 millimeter headed drain plug. I've seen them changed with other stuff, but it's normally what it is. Now the radiators actually have a drain petcock usually. It's down low on the passenger side. You've got the metal style petcock here, and then some of them have this plastic plug with like a wing nut style, and sometimes those are broken off. And since we are pulling the motor anyway, you can always just go ahead and drop the lower radiator hose, and that'll drain the coolant out of the system. Next we're going to take the battery loose.
Yeah, okay. Let me do.
You always start with the negative. You want to get the ground off first. Are you fixing it, Pilot? It's loose. You did it. Yeah, you got it. Good job, buddy.
Let's do this one now.
Yeah.
Let me do.
Okay. Take that nut off right there.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, there's another one over here. You got to get that one.
What one?
This one right here.
Okay.
Okay. Good job.
Me did it. What me do again?
What do you like to work on?
My car.
Which one is that?
Chirper.
Let me get the battery out. I'll do that for you, okay, buddy? Next, let's get the upper radiator hose and the iTech ductwork off of here, okay?
Okay. That one?
Yep, unscrew it.
This?
Yes. Yeah, you got it. All done. Car's going pee, buddy. Okay, you're done. You got it. Good job. Okay, get that iTech duct.
One?
Yep, that one. Get your screwdriver. Take that one. It's right here.
Take it off.
All right, let's take it off.
Yeah.
Get that whole iTech off of there.
Well, you did.
All right, what do you say we get that radiator out of there? Let's get it out.
Yeah.
Okay, it's this bolt right here. That one. Okay, good. It's done. Okay, can you get it? It's out. Good job, buddy. Okay, and then we need to get the fan off. We'll go ahead and pull the fan with the radiator and the shroud all together. And then you just got these 4 12 millimeter nuts right here, typically. And I usually just get in here with a ratcheting wrench and a pry bar. So once you've got your fan loose, you just lay it down here inside of the shroud of the radiator and lift your whole radiator, shroud, and fan out all at the same time. Go ahead and get the power steering loose, and it's actually not necessary to lose a whole bunch of fluid here. What you really need to do is break this line and just get both of these pulled up and out of the way. these tucked out of the way up high, and then you won't leak fluid. Just head and spend $15 on power steering. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do here is get the motor mounts loose. This driver's side motor mount is oftentimes broken. A lot of damage from heat, just from being so close to the exhaust manifold. If you're planning an engine replacement, you should probably go ahead and plan on a driver's side motor mount. And while you're in here, go ahead and get your alternator and your O2 sensor unplugged. Okay, you get over here on the passenger side, and the motor mount's way down in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the vacuum lines and wiring and stuff off of this side of the iTech right now. Fuel lines. These fuel delivery lines here can sometimes build pressure from the tank, so it's a good idea to take your fuel cap off before you break these lines loose. You got this wire loom that grounds here to the intake. You got this main engine wiring loom here that unplugs in a few places right here on the passenger side. Once it's pulled out, it's going to come out with the motor. AC wire disconnected here. Okay, I'm going to reach in there and get that 17mm motor mount bolt out. Now while you're in here, this is a perfect opportunity to go ahead and get the starter out. The starter's bolt on the bottom side and a nut on the top side. Both of these are going to be a lot easier to get out if we get this hose off of the iTech. And then let's go ahead and get the distributor out of the way while we're in here. Now down here next to the starter actually are these two wires, these bullet connectors, and they should be connected to that oil pressure sensor right there. The wires coming off of it are broken off, and that's actually pretty common. You've got to be really careful with that thing in order to keep from breaking that if yours is still in good condition. Okay. Now you can just leave the starter plugged in and just set it to the side, and we'll just reinstall it on the new motor. Okay, I've got this thing on a floor jack right now, and it's going to give me some access. I pulled the splash shield out here, and got real good access now. Okay, while you're in here with this motor mount, go ahead and get the oil pressure sending unit wire pulled off of there. Okay, now while you've got the thing on a jack, let's go ahead and get the bottom side bell housing bolts pulled out. Basically what it is, you'll find that there's a slew of 14mm bolts all the way around this bell housing here, and you've got the slave cylinder held in here with two on one side, and you'll find an exhaust bracket on this side held in with one as well, and those are all 14s, and this will be a 12mm here on this exhaust bracket. Go ahead and get that one loose while you're in here as well. Your clutch slave cylinder can be damaged if while you've got it loose, the clutch pedal gets depressed. So before you get too far along with removing the clutch slave cylinder, go ahead and give yourself some sort of a reminder. You may have your wife or a buddy or somebody stop by and go to give you a hand and jump in, and a lot of people's first instinct when they get into 5-speed is to push the clutch in, and that can cost you a slave cylinder. Okay, the slave cylinder itself will pop loose pretty easy once the bolts are out of it. You want to just pull the whole thing out gently and set it to the side. On the passenger side, I've got the slave cylinder removed, and I've got all of the bell housing bolts further up from there. That's where the starter bolts in right there. So we've just got upper bell housing bolts now on the passenger side. Driver's side now, we've got this exhaust bracket here bolted in through the bell housing. Okay, so now I've got the exhaust bracket bolt pulled out, and we've got a couple up the bell housing a little bit further, which I've got pulled out. Now, usually right along in here on this exhaust side, this ground strap comes over from the driver's side fender well. It'll usually either be attached like where it is on this one up there, or sometimes it'll be attached right here on this one. So at this point, everything on the lower side of the driver's side is out. Okay, now if you own one of these things, or you've worked on one of these, or especially if you've ever pulled one of these motors out, anybody will tell you the biggest pain in the butt, the hardest part of this job to do, is to get to all the crap along the back of the motor, and specifically the upper bell housing bolt where this water hose runs across the back of the block. So I'm going to show you how to make that job a whole lot easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get in here with a floor jack and a block of wood, and I'm going to just jack the block up from the oil pan right here in front of the steering center link and pull the motor mounts out. Alright, now you just let that jack down and the engine will drop all the way down to where it's sitting on the steering and the front diff. Now that'll give us, you know, just a few more inches of clearance that you're going to need to get back in here and get on some of these bell housing bolts. Okay, so now on the top side we're going to get stuff like the throttle cable, get it up out of the way, the vacuum line to the brake booster off, get it tucked out of the way. There's a ground strap wire that comes off the back of the firewall here, attaches to the top of the valve cover. Get all those things out of the way. These things have a tendency to break if you're not real careful with them, so you've got to give them a twist, you know, twist them a few times. Give them a firm pull. Okay, now the EGR tube on this thing is kind of a critical crossroads for me. If that tube will come loose, then I'll go ahead and pull the exhaust manifold off and get the downpipe out of the way, just to give me a little more room to work. If that EGR pipe is going to be a problem, then I'm going to break it loose right below that, or the 3-bolt junction to the downpipe right here. I prefer not to do that if I've got one that's not leaking, just because that's a place that these things are really prone for leaks, and so if it's not leaking now, I'd rather not tamper with that. 22 millimeter, it's acting like it's going to come out real easy. I sprayed some penetrating oil on it a little earlier. Okay, so I've removed this lower bracket that attaches to the downpipe right here, and I've unbolted the rear connector right back there, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull this whole manifold out. Okay, now the only thing holding the motor in are these 2 heater hoses here, and typically you've got this lower heater hose here that connects down here, and then the upper heater hose does a loop down to a metal pipe, and the metal pipe runs around the back and is bolted down by the bell housing bolts, and that makes it real difficult to get to, and I'm real fortunate here. This one doesn't have it. Someone has just used a rubber hose, which probably isn't a bad idea at all. Anyway, so I've got, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts that have to come out now. 14 millimeter wrenches here, you know, short, long, ratcheting, angled ratcheting, 6-sided box end, and I'm just going to climb back in there and get those things out. I like starting with the hardest one first. That way it's all downhill from there, you know. Okay, so I've got my 4 upper bell housing bolts pulled out. I'm going to go ahead and get this heater hose pulled loose here. Okay, so in getting prepped to pull this motor, I'm going to need to be able to support and lift on the transmission. So I've gone ahead and got my floor jack ready to go here so that I can adjust the transmission as I pull the motor out. Okay, well, if you're going to do it, now's the time to pull the hood. The only real issue here getting this motor out is the oil pan has to clear the front differential. So the way you achieve that is you lift the whole thing as a unit as high as you can get it. You jack up the transmission and you lift the engine with the cherry picker, and preferably with a load leveler, and you get it as high as you can, and then you tip the motor down and it pulls away from the transmission, and the lower part of the oil pan, which is sticking down, pivots and rolls forward over the differential, clearing the differential like that. Couple pumps on the cherry picker, a couple pumps on the transmission, until eventually it'll bottom out where the transmission is hitting the firewall and you'll start lifting the truck. The thing you've got to be really careful about here is not tearing up the input shaft on the transmission, so you do need to get the engine pulled away from the transmission, you know, as much as possible initially. So, you know, what a way I'm going to achieve that is I'm going to drop the engine just a hair, leaving the transmission fully supported. So you can see I've got some separation now between the engine and the transmission. There. We've got, you know, nice, good, clear separation here. So that's how you get a 2.6 out of a first gen Trooper with the iTech still on it with a 5-speed transmission. These are those upper bell housing bolts that I was talking about that are difficult to get to here. The starter, slave cylinder here, distributor, iTech AC compressor, motor mount bracket, oil pressure sending unit. That's your low oil idiot light switch, oil filter, air conditioning compressor, and idler pulley, harmonic balancer. That's where your fan bolts up, water pump, upper timing gear, alternator.